What happens when you build a startup around the idea that the internet shouldn't be boring? Today, Wilson Ho shares how he co-founded Lowercase Club, the engineering-first design studio behind viral sites and over $150 million raised for clients. How does Wilson separate his identity from his startup? What boundaries does he have in place for when the company feels like it needs all his time and energy? And how do you build things that people actually want to share? Welcome to the Anti-Work Podcast, a podcast where we chat to founders and professionals about staying sane while building a business. It's brought to you by Recess, a sustainable Aussie office furniture brand that's all about making work feel more like play. I'm Alessandra, and I'm your host. Thank you so much for being here, Wilson.
Yeah, it's great to great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
I am really excited to have you on the Anti-Work Podcast to talk about all things business and your career and just kind of how you ended up co-founding Lowercase. Since Recess is all about making work feel like play, we like to ask a couple fun questions at the beginning just to get a bit more relaxed in the podcast realm. And so obviously being Recess, I would love to know what your favorite recess snacks were at school.
I love the name play. I was always the kid who never had snacks at recess.
Yeah.
So but the one thing I remember were these little snacks in Woolworths called roll-ups.
Oh yeah.
And those are so good.
Yeah.
But I always had nothing to trade with the other kids. So
I begged my mum for roll-ups and she would never let me. Never.
Really? No.
Yeah, and if she gave me roll-ups, she'd pack me like a little toothbrush and she'd make me brush my teeth.
In the school?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I remember being in primary school and going into the bathrooms and brushing my teeth at the sink because I had roll-ups for recess. She was so paranoid about the sugar.
That's crazy. The floss as well.
Yeah. Well, on that, are you a morning or night person? I would love to know when your peak work hours are and when your peak play relaxation hours are.
I feel like I used to be much more of a very early morning person.
Mm-hmm.
So your 6 a.m., 7 a.m.s. But nowadays I'd say maybe more mid to late morning. So you're 8, sometimes 9, sometimes 10, even waking up. So bit of a late, bit more of a night person, weirdly enough now. But
fair enough. Are you a minimalist desk person or are you a maximalist desk person?
More stuff on my desk or
is there stuff everywhere or are you really organized and minimal?
Oh, I'm super ADHD. So if I have 5 things on my desk, I can't focus. So I just clear the desk totally.
Yeah, it's completely empty.
Yeah, exactly. Completely empty.
What is it? Clear space, clear mind?
Yeah.
So let's dive into the basics about business, career, and childhood. I want to get into a bit more of the nitty gritty.
Okay.
Could you explain to our listeners what Lowercase Club is?
That's okay. That's what we edit. So Lowercase Club is a design studio. So we brand ourselves as an engineering first design studio. The general idea is that we do everything on the web and beyond as well. So from brand to websites to web products to graphics to socials, all that sort of stuff. And the sort of stuff that we like to make is just the way that we like to think about design is just making the web fun. I think nowadays, especially with the rise of AI, you see everyone using Framer templates, Webflow templates. Maybe they go in Cursor and spin up a site. And there's kind of this sea of sameness that has really, really emerged. And the sort of stuff that we like to do at Lowercase is just the stuff that makes your heart beat a bit faster. The sort of stuff that you want to share. Maybe a brand that you see, you're wow, this is really cool. Maybe I'm going to send it to a friend. And that's the sort of stuff that we like to do.
Yeah, I do really love your website, actually.
Thank you.
I love it. I was having a look through.
And spent way too long on it. So.
Could you walk us through your career journey so far and kind of what prompted you to start Lowercase?
Career journey so far. I think the most fun law is that when I came out of high school, I went to a General Assembly event and there was someone talking there on a food waste startup. So, and I think I emailed him afterwards and said, hey, really love your talk. Can I work with you? And I did digital marketing for him. And I rode around in a garbage truck for a while over in Melbourne. Realized I didn't love marketing at all. Swapped over into engineering. So taught myself how to code after that. And I think from there, I worked mostly software engineering jobs. I worked at, I think, a couple other companies, a couple other startups, Atlassian for a little while, Immutable for a little while. And after a while there, I think I just got very, very sick of working a software engineering job. So I left, spent a few months doing nothing, then spinning up, trying to build products and do other trinkets. And I think after that was Ange had also quit Immutable at around the same time as well. We happened to work together and we just decided to start Lowercase together. And I think through a series of really lucky events that all worked out. But don't know if I would say it's all just us putting effort in and things coming out. There's also a lot of like very lucky things that happened along the way.
Yeah, definitely. Do you consider yourself more technically or creatively driven?
Oh, I think earlier in my life, I would say more technically, but
Mhm.
part of that might have just been being scared of being creative.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot of, like, one part of creativity is just having the courage to accept feedback from other people. And
Yeah.
I really struggled with that early on. So I think
Mhm.
now probably more creatively driven than technically driven.
Yeah, awesome. So I guess you said that you started in marketing and then you kind of realized that you didn't really like it. So you moved into software and you taught yourself
Yeah.
how to code. I'm curious, like, did you always think, like, prior to working in marketing that you wanted to do something creative?
Oh, I just thought that startups were really cool, to be
Okay.
honest.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what a startup even was. And straight out of high school, I was just like, I just want to see how people work. And I found startups really fascinating.
Hmm.
I went to a bunch of events, and I think the swap from marketing over into teaching myself how to code was
Hmm.
actually a lot of me going, well, I have no idea what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like I'm just clicking around the Google ads, not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
And maybe it was even a bit of like imposter syndrome there that went like, okay, maybe if I know how to code, then I won't feel like that. And I still do feel like that. But that was the driving that was the driving force.
Lowercase Club bills itself as an engineering first design studio. Can you explain that a little bit more for
Yeah,
us?
okay. So for us, like the way we think about it is we started off building websites.
Hmm.
That was the first thing that we did. So brands and websites. And the two parts of a website is you design the website and then you build the website.
Hmm.
So you sit down in Figma, design it, and then you engineer it.
Hmm.
And one thing we always found was that those two disciplines we thought should really be together because otherwise you end up with a lot lost in translation between the two.
Hmm.
And we built ourselves as more engineering first because what we found was if you focus a lot on the platform which you're going to use the website on, so the web, you can do lots of other things that you couldn't. Say, for example, if you use like a website builder, or if you don't think from first principles of, hey, like what's even possible,
Yeah.
like instead of maybe drawing from Pinterest as inspiration, you might start with something. You might go on like a site like Dribble or like Godly website and then just
Hmm.
copy one for one effects. And that's how you end up with sameness in like
Yeah.
the sort of websites that you make.
With this like idea of sameness and these platforms presenting really simple templates, but
Yeah.
obviously making it quite accessible for everyday people that might not know how to build a website.
Yeah.
How do these templates and even AI being quite controversial in the creative space,
Yeah.
how do you use AI in any elements of your business, or are you kind of against using AI?
I'm not sure how much you are in like the Twitter or like LinkedIn or like tech Twitter bubble or something, but then
Like a little bit.
yeah, because I feel like AI in that bubble is viewed super positively, where it's like everyone
Hmm.
loves AI. It's like amazing. Oh
Yeah.
my god, GPT-5 came out, then Opus 4.1 came out, or Claude
Hmm.
Code has an update, or look at Codex now. But
Yeah.
then outside of that, it's like people are like, oh, what's a chat GPT? Like, why
Yes.
this thing sucks? Maybe I might rant to it about something, right?
Yeah.
But to start from the beginning, what you said about like the website platforms and stuff,
Hmm.
I think the distinction there is like kind of twofold. Like on one hand, I don't think everyone really needs a super unique site. I don't think everyone really needs a site that really stands out
Hmm.
because for some people, parts of their business, like if you run like a vehicle repair shop,
Hmm.
right, and you just need a website for someone to just call you. At that point, it's do you really need a website? Is that the main driving factor or part of your website? And in that case,
Yeah.
I think these platforms like your Squarespace, Webflow, Framer, like they all work really well. And sometimes even with like other startups who are like more bootstrapped and stuff, you
Hmm.
can really just use the template.
Yeah.
I think like where we really try and help is, for example, for startups who have maybe like raised money, maybe they've raised a series round, like a series A,
Hmm.
maybe they've like raised like a seed or like a series A round,
Hmm.
and then they really, really want people to stick to their site. So maybe they want the eyeballs and the attention of like newer customers,
Hmm.
or like they want to raise more money, or maybe they want to like attract people to then hire. And it's just, I feel like for, especially in the tech world where we operate,
Hmm.
there's just so many new companies popping up every day that why
Yeah.
should they pay attention to you if
Yeah.
like everything's the same? And in that case, when people come to us, it's like, hey, well, everything's the same. We just can't get anyone to look at us. And then that's the problem that we try and solve for. On the other hand, I just think that cool, like new and websites that aren't the same, which is cool.
Yeah.
It's just fun. Like it's
Yeah.
I like I'm not sure, but like back in the MySpace days when you could
Yeah.
just add CSS to
Hmm.
your webpage and like add random stickers or like GIFs and stuff. I thought that
Yeah.
where's that web? That's so cool.
Well, I was actually going to bring that point up because I think that like you also see it in social media, like everything kind of becomes the same because it becomes so accessible. And I
Yeah,
almost feel like there'll be this kind of like pushback to like old media, which is like early 2000s
I hope
websites. But like,
so.
like I recently, kind of on a tangent, but because you're talking about websites, like,
Yeah,
well, the singer of
I
Paramore,
think I
lead
do.
singer, she
Yeah.
released a solo project, but
Mm-mm-mm.
she put it on a website and it was like barred with a
Oh,
code. And you could only go into the website and then all of the like MP3 files were just
oh, that's so
around
cool.
and you could just like move the MP3s around. So you
I
didn't
love
know
that.
like the order of the songs. You could just listen to them, but you needed a
Yeah.
code to get in. It was like real MySpace kind of vibe.
Oh my God, I
And so
love that.
I think that's like cool. Like you're seeing that a bit more in like popular culture or maybe just on like the space of the internet that I'm on.
Yeah,
But it's like cool to see that reemergence, I think. Like when I was kind of talking about AI being controversial, I think it's
yeah,
like controversy of AI in creative spaces because it like
yeah.
gets rid of that like human element. But I don't see like I do agree that it's not necessarily controversial in like tech spaces because it obviously makes a lot of things easier.
Yeah. It's really interesting because we operate in two realms, right? Like
Yeah.
one is the design side where
Mm-hmm.
we design websites or brands, and the other side is the actual build side, where
Yeah.
because we actually code all of our sites, and
Mm-hmm.
so there's a bit of engineering there as
Yeah.
well. And I think there's two different perspectives there. So on the engineering side, on there seems to be like a lot of anxiety around developers of hey like
Yeah.
are we going to get replaced is and then you see tons of posts maybe on like your LinkedIn or your Twitters like oh my god I can vibe code
Yeah.
and like or and like all those sorts of posts, and I think the truth is somewhere around the middle, which is that
Yeah.
it almost feels like AI has plateaued at a point now and everything started to slow down where they've almost but not quite replaced developers. And I think it's just stuck there. And
Yeah.
you're kind of seeing everything get stuck. That last aspect, and I saw a post which was like, like developers have almost become glorified AI babysitters, where you
Right.
just sit down and you yell at your 5 AI things in your terminal and you tell them to do stuff. So I think
Yeah.
like the way that we use AI on the development end is well, we use it to help us code, right? And then we
Yeah.
use it to help us code. A lot of the boring things that we used to do just become way faster with AI and
Yeah.
way more. But then it's just if you just think that you can just sit there and just talk to an AI and it can just
Mm.
build the thing, like that's not how it works.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's
No.
not how it works.
Yeah.
I think that last 10 to 20% is almost all human. And then I think
Mm-hmm.
I've spent quite a long time, like tens to hundreds of hours trying to get AI to do it, but it just won't.
Yeah.
And you just
Yeah.
need that touch. Meanwhile, on the design side is a little bit more interesting, which is that
Yeah.
I think it's most useful for us when we use tools like Midjourney or, for example, like your video gen AIs
Mm-hmm.
and that sort of stuff, where it creates graphics. But
Yeah.
at the same on like in the same way that there's this whole conversation around does AI have taste,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's like the struggle with AI is that it can generate, but it doesn't know when to stop.
Yeah.
And that stopping, that picking part, at least like the taste aspect of AI for now, is not very strong.
Yeah.
And if you were to just get AI to generate you designs, it's going to generate you slop. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I think a lot of the things you see out there just aren't very good. So for us, it's image gen, we use it a little bit, but on the design side, it's almost, I would say 99% just designing.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah. Also, yeah, no, it's interesting like breaking that down. And I guess on that, you kind of talking about the way that lowercase is kind of you've got your engineers and
yeah,
your coders, and then you have the designers.
yeah,
Could you explain a little bit more how your business is structured, and
sure.
do you and your co-founder split roles? Do you have a team? Like what kind of, yeah, give me the lowdown.
Yeah, so we're a very small team. So it's me and we have one full-time designer,
Mm-hmm.
and then most of the other help that we get is from contractors or freelancers that we have on like an ongoing
Mm-hmm.
basis. And the role split is more so that we, even though we write engineering first, right? I think like that really comes from us working really closely and into the and like really
Mm-hmm.
really together. Versus I think design is the most important part of our
Yeah.
business. Like funnily enough, right?
Yeah.
We're still a design studio. So Andrew manages a lot of that stuff. So it's the hey, can we pick the right person? Can we train our junior designer? Can we maybe help other people learn and develop better design skills? Can she like drive the actual creative direction of every
Mm-hmm.
project that we do? And meanwhile, for me, I handle a lot more of the engineering side, and then sometimes all the just more of the business and like ops side and the marketing side and
Yeah.
stuff as well. So that's how we mostly divide our business.
Cool. Growing up, I'm curious, like, did you always imagine yourself like starting something or working for yourself? Like, what inspired you when you were young?
What is I mean, I was young. I
And it can be like as like chill or as serious as you want. Like, We were talking about like Jessica Simpson the other day, and
Oh,
like, so whatever you are,
I love that
like,
segue.
well, I think that like looking back, I love asking this question because I
Yeah.
think looking back as like who you are as a child kind of is like quite indicative of who you become as an adult. Like, yes and no, but like I look at myself and there's like things that I was interested in, and I'm like, of course, this is the way that I am. Like, do you know what I mean?
God. I I was like a very obsessive kid, and I think that's because my parents just made me play tennis all the time.
Yeah.
So I played tennis basically full time, like 8 hours a day
Oh,
until when I was
wow.
like 15 or
Yeah.
16 or so. So I think like all the people who I looked up to as a kid were just tennis players.
Yeah.
It was like Nadal's, your like Djokovic's, and then like
Mhm.
all those sorts of players. And looking up, and maybe that's why I landed more on like a technical background, funnily
Yeah.
enough. It was that repetitive, just work every day. That's kind of reaching, but
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
an interesting connection.
Did you ever see yourself like starting your own business, or did you kind of, was it just something that kind of happened like when you were in your early 20s?
I think when I was in high school, like as in later in high school, I always kind of wanted to start
Mhm.
a startup. And that's the main reason why I tried to go and like work at the startup and like
Mhm.
see what's happening in the first place.
Yeah.
I always kind of wanted to. I think like one person who, and his podcasts are super popular now, right?
Mhm.
Is Tim Ferriss, right?
Mhm.
And I think he was always super inspiring, like looking up just not specifically about the productivity, morning habits, and
Mhm.
like morning routine type advice, but it was the fact that he was a bipolar person, right?
Mhm.
And he always talked about how I think he wrote an article which is like productivity advice for manic depressive people.
Right.
And that just like weirdly resonated with me because I was just like, well, yeah, I can't get myself to focus or like
Yeah.
work properly. And I think just seeing how well he's done, and it's like, I know I'm bad at efficiency. Maybe I'll just focus on effectiveness. I always found
Right.
that really cool.
Yeah. Lowercase Club was only founded in 2023, so it's still
Yeah.
quite new. And founders of early stage startups tend to kind of blur the line, right, between their identities and their business. I'm curious if this is something that you found or if you've been able to kind of keep those separate.
There's been this new trend in SF of 996.
Mm-hmm.
And I always found that really interesting because that was like Chinese work culture of
Right.
like start at 9, end at 9, 6 days a week.
Right.
And this is like the hot new thing. Like everyone talking like about how I work 996, all this sort of hustle porn.
Yeah.
And I always found that really interesting because to like talk about the previous point,
Mm.
I really like to focus or try to focus on effectiveness over efficiency in terms of like working on the right things over like working more.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's inevitable that when you run a business, work just really bleeds over, right?
Mm-hmm.
Into like every part of your life. And I think like the funny story here is Ange and I had to set screen time passcodes on each other's laptops
Oh, wow.
at 8 p.m. to literally stop us from working past 8.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, well, I'll unlock it for you if you pay me $50. And that has hilariously been the solve,
Yeah.
exploiting the poverty mindset to make it so so that we won't work past 8.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's the other thing, and you kind of touched on it, is like startups, especially in the tech world, often kind of glorify like hustle culture and always
Yeah.
working. And I mean, maybe in the last few years, we've sort of had a bit more of a shift. I think like post COVID, we've had a bit more, like there's been more conversation around mental health and kind of prioritizing that.
Yeah.
But is this something that you've also like struggled with, trying to fit into the hustle culture, or maybe feeling like internal pressure?
Yeah, no, so just broader commentary on the hustle culture. It's really interesting because we had
Yeah.
this whole, because I think pre-COVID was work in person. Then you had the whole remote era
Mm-hmm.
after COVID. And I think there was a swing back, like a even harder overcorrection back to like
Yeah.
everyone going, wow, working in person is it. Like
Yeah.
you need to be in person. And then there was even more of an overcorrection of I feel like hustle culture emerged even more and even stronger after the whole COVID, like
Mm-hmm.
mental health days, like taking sick days off movement, which is really interesting. And I think the zeitgeist now is sort of people working very long hours, almost in like a performative way, where you have these tweets that are like, "What's stopping you from coding like this?" And just them on
Yeah.
like a treadmill
Yeah.
with, like their laptops. I think there's this really interesting culture now of I'm not sure what that's caused, but I think on like my front, I just have always really struggled with like mental health, and I
Mhm.
think part of that was when I stopped tennis, that was because of a really bad arm injury. And I had really, really bad clinical depression for like a few years post
Yeah.
that. So that's always been something I've like really struggled with. And I think now it's just the one thing that I really, really need to do is just take days off.
Yeah.
And so like at least a day off a week, and then just like more days off, more time off, and then just like knowing what ticks and what gives me energy, and then just working on that rather than just staying at home, locking myself in a room, working all day.
Yeah. I mean, also like running a business too, right? You sort of have to look
Yeah.
after yourself in order to be able to show up like for your company, for your co-founder, for
Yeah,
your team.
exactly.
Obviously, in the early stages of business as well, it can be really tempting to always say yes to
Yeah.
things and take on work because obviously you are growing and you're trying to build something. How do you decide like what is worth taking on?
That's so interesting. I feel like being able to pick what you take on in terms of a client is a privilege. It's a privilege of a business that's doing somewhat okay. And when we first started, we didn't really have that privilege as much. It was more like, hey, like we just want to work on websites that we think will help us. And then I think nowadays it's more so we pick and we work with clients who really excite us.
Yeah.
And like we're much more lucky now to actually be able to pick people who we work with, and then we really, really select by, hey, is this person good to work with? Have we heard good things about them? Does this project excite us? Do we have the freedom here to like do things that like to actually build a site that we would be proud of, right? To
Yeah.
craft something that like we'll be proud of. So I think it's indexing on excitement, and that's what drives us more now.
Do you find that you and your co-founder have similar risk appetites? What's your ethos on like risk taking in
That's
a
so
startup?
interesting. I think Ange is a bit more risk averse than I am, but not by a lot. I think we both have pretty high risk appetites, and it wasn't always like that. I feel like I was always very risk averse, in general, but it was more like the process of just continually trying to force myself out of my comfort zone that
Yeah.
I grew that risk appetite. And now it's just, I feel like all the biggest decisions that I've made have been through just sitting down, thinking, taking a bunch of time and just doing the thing. And I think having a high risk appetite also does help in the sense that one question that works really, really unexpectedly well is asking yourself, how would I solve this problem if I had 10 times more agency? And that just, it's so frustrating how good that question is in terms of actually producing answers, because it gives you all these things that you could do, which you wouldn't have thought of because they're outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And there was this exercise called fear setting that I think Tim Ferriss did like a TED talk on. And I always found that really helpful. And the idea was just the downside is always not as bad as you think it is.
One thing that I really like to ask our guests is for a lot of people, when they sort of decide to start their own business, most of the time, like the thing that they do in that business is like a hobby of theirs or something that they really loved prior to starting this business, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious to know if that was kind of the same for you, and if it was a hobby for you, now that you kind of do this as your career, have you picked up new hobbies?
That's so interesting. Because there's that whole saying of like, if you love what you do, you won't work a day in your life. And then there's the other side of never ever work on your passions because you'll hate
right.
them,
Like
right?
don't commercialize your hobbies.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Don't commercialize your hobbies, you'll ruin them. And I think the truth lies somewhere in between, which is for Ange and I I think we both just really, really love tinkering. And so like coding websites, seeing cool websites, just like designing fun things
Yeah.
prior. And I think that's something that we really still try and nurture now. But just like you said, it is work, right? And funnily enough, as work has taken up our lives, I would still say that is weirdly a hobby in
Yeah.
the sense of just it almost feels like scavenging, where you just scavenge the web and find little cool sites. You're like, oh my god, look at this thing that like this person did, and it's just some unhinged some unhinged anime site or something.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then that I think that's still one thing that we really love doing.
Yeah.
But outside of work now, I think in terms of newer hobbies or like other things, I have just done things that try and completely disconnect from work. So whether that's like writing, like walking, like running, exercising, or like learning a new language or something like that. And yeah, but not a lot of time.
Yeah, I can
outside of
imagine.
work nowadays.
Yeah, I think it's really difficult, especially like when we're just fed so much media. Because even me, like, I'll be like, oh, I'm going to switch off and watch a movie. But then I watch a movie and I'm like, that's a cool aesthetic. Like, maybe I can do this in like a social media mode. Like, I imagine, like, is it similar for you when you're like consuming media? I'd love to know, like, what's a kind of weirdest thing that you draw like inspo from?
What's the
Like,
weirdest thing we draw inspo from? I think just like random trailers that we watch on YouTube,
yeah.
or just even random videos or TV shows or like
Mm-hmm.
animated TV shows, just
Yeah.
everything. And sometimes it's like, oh, I want to watch this movie because it has a cool art style.
Yeah.
Or sometimes just, oh, look at that street sign. That looks really cool.
Yeah.
I think those are probably the most unhinged things that we've
Mm-hmm.
drawn inspo from. I think anime intros are like the most
Mm-hmm.
unhinged thing,
Yeah.
probably. Just like playing on repeat and just
Yeah.
looking for that one frame that they drew.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite ones?
Some of my one favorite ones. I think the newest One Piece anime intro
Mm-hmm.
is pretty insane. Like they
Yeah.
just drew so many little details, and you just think about how long it took to produce the thing. Like each
Mm-hmm.
person drawing each individual frame,
Yeah.
and yeah, I don't know. I have a friend, I think Dan, who he makes music. He runs ultra marathons, runs a business, early work,
Yeah.
and then also has a very rich social life, talks with friends, spends
Mm-hmm.
time with family. And I was always just like, how do you have the time
Yeah.
to do all of that? And then he goes batching, and he says, yeah, all my social time is running,
That's
or
funny.
or like all my social time is like making music.
Yeah. I don't really have a segue here, but I would love to know what is one boundary that you've set in your professional life that has changed things for you or helped?
I think the APM rule like helped the most because it was like before that point, one thing that I really did struggle with was just sometimes you just either in the flow at like 7:59 p.m. and then
Mm-hmm.
you just want to keep working and then keep working and keep working.
Mm,
All the times it's driven by stress. It's like, fuck this
mm,
client project's coming up. Oh my god, I need to finish this thing. Or hey, like I really need to finish this post.
yeah.
And then it just goes on to 9, maybe 10, and 11, and
Mm-hmm.
then 12, and suddenly you're like sleeping at like 2 a.m.,
Mm-hmm.
3 a.m., and it
Yeah.
doesn't really help. So I think just maintaining some semblance of the sleep schedule really
Yeah.
helps there.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I guess like also when you're kind of working for yourself, it can be tempting to just like not necessarily follow like a structured routine, right?
yeah, that's right.
So having that is probably
It it
important.
it really helps in just like waking up and doing the same thing every morning.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I guess moving forward, what does the future of your company look like? Are you kind of building something to scale and make, are we going for like world domination? Or is this a lifestyle business for you?
I think Ange and I talked about this, and what we're trying to aim for now is a team of 5 to 8 people here
Mm-hmm.
in Sydney.
Yeah.
We're transitioning more from working with like contractors and freelancers to working with full-time designers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that just really, really helps because I think when we work with contractors and freelancers, oftentimes they might go off and like work with someone else. And it's
Yeah.
really hard to maintain a consistent group of people who can make quality work. And like some companies who we're trying to learn a lot from are like Daybreak or like Basement,
Mm-hmm.
or like Studio Fright. There are lots of other design agencies, especially over in the US and Canada and then South America as well,
Mm-hmm.
who do really, really amazing work. And I think we're trying to do that in Sydney. So
Yeah.
it's hey, we want to make a small group of really, really strong designers, developers, and we want to keep doing this.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about where to go from there because
Yeah.
we don't know.
On that, how do you define success for Lowercase Club?
How do I define success for lowercase club? I think it's getting closer to that North Star. So one is just being known as a company who makes really, really good brands and websites. And I think like that for us is like the driving North Star is would we be someone who other studios would want to recommend us? Like
Yeah.
can we be a studio who other studios would also want to recommend because they want to be associated with our work? Because we have a small list of like 5 studios who we recommend. And
Yeah.
it's just we just love their work so much and we don't really get anything from it. Sometimes we don't even know the people. Right?
Yeah.
It's just people we love the work of. And our goal, our North Star is we just want to be on that list
Yeah.
for someone else. And that's what we try to do.
Cool. I've got a couple more questions left for you.
Yeah, that's good.
Just to summarize, but I would love to know what advice would you give to someone who wants to build a business or maybe is feeling a bit stuck in their career, a bit unsure, going around working in corporate, don't know if it feels right. What kind of advice do you have for them?
I think I saw a little quote, which was, when you walk the path builds itself. And I think that's really, really relevant advice. It's just do the thing. And I think like a lot of the time, people who want to build businesses, they'll say, oh, I'll leave my job after this next bonus, or maybe next year when like X pay comes around, or maybe when my next round of equity vests, like I'll like leave and then I'll just build my own business. I think the one thing that really, really helps in like that sort of instance is just to do the thing. Like start building something on your side, right? Just find something you're curious about, find something that excites you, start doing a little bit, dedicate just a little bit of time, continue doing the thing. And soon enough, I think action creates information. And then with that information, you can act better and then
Yeah.
do more things. And I think that's the thing that's the most important, which is do the thing.
Yeah, that's great advice. Just do it. I think people get in their heads and they overthink, right? But it's
Yeah.
like there'll never be a perfect time, perfect moment to start something or to do it.
Yeah, because like business is just action with imperfect information, and you're never going to have 100% information. You'll at max have like 10, 15%, like especially when you first start.
Yeah.
And maybe as you act more, as you do more, you get more information and you course correct from there. But there's no point sitting down and making a giant plan when you know nothing.
Yeah.
It's just a waste of time.
Just got to do it.
Yeah.
What about advice for founders when it comes to setting boundaries and protecting their well-being?
Use screen time. Use
Yeah.
Opal. Ad.
Yeah.
It also depends on what sort of person you are. Angie never gets addicted to anything. She will just she's not a very she doesn't have a very addictive personality. I on the other hand will get I have a few hard boundaries. I just don't play games. I was very addicted to games as a kid, and I just don't go there because I know that if I do that, I'm just never going to work.
Yeah.
And weirdly enough, in our current zeitgeist, health has become more important. Like you see companies like Everlab and Superpower, and then like other companies like that where they talk about as a founder, it's really important to protect your health. Even though that's popular advice, it's popular advice that I actually really agree with, which is protect your health, protect your physical health, protect your mental health. Like work with people who energize you, spend time with friends. One of the reasons why we got an office in the first place was just so we can go into the office and just see friends and to see people who we want to work with. And in terms of pure ROI, is that worth it? In terms of actual paying for an office, probably not. But in just seeing friends, it's very, very worth it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think it's like goes back to that thing of like, it's like we all know it, even though we don't want to hear it. Like having a good sleep routine and moving your body and eating healthy, like all of those things actually do help as much as we like hate to say it.
The Brian Johnson special.
Like it works, right?
Yeah.
Well, do you have a unhinged tip that you haven't mentioned yet?
If you want to be a designer, watch anime. Watch anime. It is very, very good, and you'll find lots of really, really good inspo there.
Yeah, my sister gave me her Crunchyroll login, so I'm
That's
like,
so funny.
I'm deep into it. Well, lastly, my last question is just where can our listeners find you? And lowercase. Let's get the little elevator pitch.
Yeah. So you can find our website at lowercase.club. And then our Twitter handle is at lowercase.club. And my personal Twitter is it's Wilson Ho. And Angie's Twitter handle is AngeHYC. So yeah, those are the places you can find us. If you want to work with us, feel free to reach out. Or if you're a designer who wants to work with us as well, we'd always love to chat.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. This was super fun.
Great to chat. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to Wilson for joining us on today's episode of the Anti-Work Podcast. And thank you for tuning in. This show is produced by Centennial World Podcast Network. We'll be back next week with more conversations on work, play, and everything in between.